Hello there and welcome to another BoBeats synth video, and today I have a mystery package here with something that I think will be quite interesting. And yeah, sorry about the mess in the background, we are still building the studio. What do we have here? Well, we have something all the way from Stylophone. They sent it over and it is the Stylophone Theremin or Theremin. I'm not entirely sure how it's pronounced, but I am sure that somebody will correct me down in the comments. And I'm equally sure that you should go and check out today's sponsor, DistroKid. So it's a service that lets you upload your music to Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal and all other relevant stores. So go and check them out. I've linked them in the description. The box is actually really nice, which is surprising because this is not an expensive synthesizer. So in the box we have a little quick start guide manual and we have the main attraction. And in terms of build, it's plastic. I think this is aluminium, and the knobs actually feel quite good. They offer a bit of resistance and they're big and chunky. On the top here we have an antenna. And on the back we have the battery compartments, and I think it takes 6 AA batteries. There's also the possibility to mount this. I think this is the same threads as on a mic stand, mic boom, if I'm not mistaken. So I've never really played a Theremin before, so we're just gonna check it out and see what it sounds like and how it is to play. I wanted to start exploring the Stylophone Theremin by creating a song. So here I have the Repro 5 synthesizer laying down a pad and I'm playing the Stylophone Theremin on top. And you can play this instrument in 3 different ways, either using the antenna, the slider, or a combination of both. Here I'm playing the theremin using the slider. I've set it to a square wave. I have some vibrato on as well as some delay. Here I'm using the slider and the antenna together, and the slider oscillator is actually frequency modulating the pitch of the antenna, and I'm sort of increasing the amount of frequency modulation going on the closer I hold my hand to the antenna. Next up, let's go over the different features on the Stylophone Theremin. So first up, we have 2 big pitch knobs here. This one is for the antenna and this one is for the slider. So they're basically 2 different voices. And then we have this tiny knob over here which you use to tune the antenna. This is rather finicky. It will cause you a bit of headache. The unit comes with a built-in speaker and it's actually not bad. It sounds pretty good for the types of sounds that you'll be getting out of this synthesizer. So it's surprisingly usable. And between the pitch knobs we have the mixer switch. So this lets us listen to either the slider oscillator or in the middle position, a mix between the slider oscillator and the antenna. Or in the left position, we're only listening to the antenna sound. And I'm not gonna stand here pretending that I have learned how to play the theremin in like a week's time. It is very difficult. but also quite fun. The reason why it's so difficult is because you do not have any keys. You just move your hand near the antenna and by moving your hand faster in proximity to the antenna, you can do a vibrato. But finding the right pitch is a lot of work, and I won't pretend it's easy. This gentleman putting me in my place when it comes to playing the theremin is actually the inventor of the instrument, Leon Theremin. And I wanted to show this clip for a specific purpose. There is one key difference between the Stylophone Theremin and classic theremins. Take a look at Leon's left hand. With that hand, he's controlling the amplitude of the sound, the sound volume. And this is something you can't do on the Stylophone. It's a pitch-only theremin. But the Stylophone Theremin has a bunch of other features not typically found on a classic theremin. The ability to mix between the sound sources is actually quite important because we can turn on modulation. So if we set it to 1, we are using the sound from the slider to modulate the pitch of the antenna. So if we've set it to mix, so we're not listening to the actual sound from the slider, we can trigger it. And control the FM modulation that is occurring when I'm triggering the slider sounds. If I turn on the drone, I can control the pitch of the sound using the slider, but also control the level of frequency modulation that we're getting by moving my hand closer to the antenna. So let's turn on the drone. And this way you can actually get some pretty cool FM type drone sounds out of the Stylophone Theremin. I feel like I'm casting a spell here. And having modulation still set at 1 and mix in the middle position, we can trigger the drone and we hear both of the sounds. And we can turn on the vibrato and change the waveform for the slider to a sine wave. There is also a switch here from low to high octave. And we can listen just to the slider with vibrato. As you might hear, there's a little bit of crackling. I think it's from the delay, so sometimes it definitely crackles a bit when you... I think it's when the feedback is like pretty high. So for the antenna, there's only one sound setting and you can turn on the delay, but you can also modulate it, but it definitely changes up the sound a bit. And if we set it to modulation 2, it basically cross-modulates between the two sounds and it really creates this super aggressive tone. And as you might have understood already, there's a trigger here that you can use to trigger the slider voice, so you don't have to have it on drone all the time if you don't want to. And yeah, there's this little keyboard here that you can use to control the slider voice. And as I showed you previously, if you don't feel comfortable playing this with antenna, you can play it using the slider. It's of course a very different experience from playing a theremin, but I think it's like a nice mix between the theremin experience and a stylophone experience. Oh, and not to forget, for the trigger, we have a decay knob. And for the delay, we have level, we have time, we have feedback, and an on and off switch. And on the side of the device, we have this volume knob here that also works as an on and off switch, headphones out and main out. Now I do have a bit more to share about the synth here, but first a quick word from today's sponsor, DistroKid. Releasing your music shouldn't be difficult, and using DistroKid is super easy and is a fast and reliable way of getting your tracks onto Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal and other relevant stores. And one thing that I really like is that you pay once a year and then you can upload unlimited amounts of music. One feature that I really like is the hyperfollow feature. So when you've uploaded your music, you get a custom page. DistroKid does this automatically. On that page are links to where people can find your music in different stores. You can just share that one link instead of sharing like multiple links to different stores. So it's just a place where everything's gathered. So if you want to go and check out DistroKid, use my link in the description. You not only support my channel, but you also get a discount. So go and check it out. Like I said at the start of the video, I actually have very little experience playing a theremin. And I think that the Stylophone Theremin is actually aimed precisely at people like myself, somebody who wants to try out what it is like to play a theremin, but they don't want to spend more money. There is of course the option of buying one of those Moog Thereminis, I think they're called, but I think they're like 4 times the price of the Stylophone Theremin, but they will give you not just pitch control but also amplitude control. So if you really want to learn how to play a classic theremin, I think that that's probably the way to go. But this is more for dipping your toe into the world of theremins, having a feel for it, having some fun with it, and it also offers a lot more with the slider, with the different FM modes that I showed you here, with the modulation, with the delay, so you can actually have quite a lot of fun with it without actually knowing how to play a theremin. But I also want to be totally honest and say that it's a difficult instrument to play. A lot of the sounds that I'm getting out of it are these kind of more experimental or effects type sounds. But here's where the slider comes in, kind of saving the day, because if you're using the slider, like I showed you with my song demo, it's not that tricky to create a little melodic line or a bass line or something like that. Just don't confuse this for a standard synth. This is definitely a unique synth. It has its own unique workflow, and the sounds you're getting out of it are quirky and a little bit different, and it's a ride, it's an experience, what can I say? And I actually enjoyed it. And even my wife, who used to play the violin, came into the studio and had some fun just testing it out, playing a bit with it, because there are some similarities between a violin and how you kind of play a theremin. So yeah, it's a fun, quirky, unique synth that is probably not for everyone, but it's priced really nicely. And to mention a couple of problems I've had with it, firstly, the tuning is quite finicky. Once you learn how to do it, it's not that difficult, but I think it will give some of you a bit of headache. Secondly, I was getting some noise from the delay, in particular when I was using the slider VCO here. And thirdly, having no amplitude control is definitely something that affects the way that you can play this expressively. With amplitude control, you have a lot more control over the sound itself and the way you are actually performing with it. And fourth and last, the biggest problem is I don't know how to play a theremin. that's the biggest problem. I think that's really important. If you're familiar with these kind of devices, it won't be that difficult to use. And if you're not, this can actually be a great starting point if you want to get into playing a theremin. So definitely something worth checking out, definitely something ending up on my kind of fun synths under, I don't know, 150 bucks or something like that. Definitely worth checking out. And definitely worth checking out is also today's sponsor, DistroKid. So go and check them out. I've linked them in the description of the video. It's a service that lets you upload your music to Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, Apple Music, and other stores. So go and check them out. They're linked in the description, and if you use my link, you get a discount and support the channel. So hope to see you in a future video.